That's right. The Carolina Panthers take down the LA Rams, who honestly I have as a Super Bowl contender this year. Let's dig into it and see what the ceiling is for this Panthers team. If I'm the Bucks, I'm getting a little more nervous that this division win is not automatic. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Katie Caldwell. This is Jeff Lloyd. And before we dive into this game, we do a ton of NFL and NHL content on this channel. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing. It's totally free and it really helps us out. Jeff, you know this about me. I have been so high on the Panthers this season because they've just been such a fun and unexpected watch. But I'll be honest, I didn't see this one coming against the Rams. What did we learn about the Panthers in this game?
Well, I think the first thing is you start with the Panthers team we saw 6 days prior on Monday Night Football. And, I remember, we had done some speaking on that game and we were like, all right, well, this is it for Carolina. Now it's the main stage.
Yes.
And I think you could probably say this with a lot of teams in the NFL right now. It's 1 week, wow, they could be something. And then it's another week of, all right, we all fell for fool's gold. And I
Isn't
think
the
that was kind
parity
of
unbelievable this season? Like more than any other year, it feels that way.
no question, 5 to go. And I don't think really anybody kind of knows where much of this is going right now.
No one does.
Um, No, and, so you walked out of that and you're like, "Okay, well, yeah, it's a home game, it's the Los Angeles Rams," but, talking about what was probably, one of the hottest teams in the NFL, one of the hottest offenses in the NFL,
Yep.
but you play sound defense and, you get 3 turnovers out of a good Rams team. I'll be honest with you, I still didn't think it was gonna matter up until the final turnover where it was just like, you kinda looked around and you were thinking about timeouts, you were thinking about the clock, and you were like, "Oh,
Oh,
I think this is really going to happen."
yeah.
And, they say things for teams like the Rams, like, maybe it's not best to just kinda go coast to coast.
Hmm.
A loss, maybe just enough to get everybody, bought back in or whatever. But I don't think anybody thought a team the Rams were going to lose to was gonna be the Carolina Panthers, who just seem to be sticking around here now
Yes.
in this NFC South. And it is weird because there's weeks where you're like, "You know what? There's the hype. This everybody thought. That's why you had the number 1 overall pick." And then, of course, you get some games where, what's going on here? Why is this
Hmm.
not working the way it should, or why is it not consistent enough? But I think when you get to Carolina, it's youth. It's just a lot of
Yes.
young players. So maybe they're playing above their head, and then
Hmm.
there's weeks, and this team has what, 2 losses of 25 points or more? So, I mean, it's really hard when we talk about this team as a 7-6 team and kinda break down some of those 6 losses and kinda go through those, but it's youth. It's probably what it
Hmm.
is, and going forward and probably in the next year, it's a team you have a lot of, hope for. But, having a winning record at this point in the NFL, whether you in the AFC or you are in the NFC,
Hmm.
that's where you want to be because except for maybe 2 or 3 teams, I don't think anybody is going to sit here and break out a gavel and say, boom, they're good. They're going far. They're going to be a championship contender come
Yeah.
January. I don't think, there's really any team you can say that about. So the question now is, consistency, who's hot
Hmm.
and probably a tad bit of luck.
You're right, youth, and then as we've talked about before, it just feels like they're the epitome of playing with house money, with no expectations. So every win just feels so fun and unexpected. Bryce Young had a really great game. One thing that stood out to me in this one, 8 of 10 for 162 yards on third and fourth down. So we know this team can run the ball, but we're also see him make key plays in really, really big situations.
He has to trust himself. He has to not
Mm.
overthink it. Carolina, and this is to Carolina's credit. Granted, you had Young first, and then you started to add the guys. But for the epitome of our talks this season have been, what is done to young quarterbacks,
Mm.
and mostly bad. Well,
Yes.
Carolina said, let's make sure we can properly evaluate him with things to work with.
Mhm.
Poker, McMillan, and you know what everybody says? "Oh, well, he was tiny, he was a little bit smaller." Yeah, then by all means, get him taller wide receivers. It's a
Imagine
lot
that.
easier to see a 6'3" wide receiver at 5'11" than it is for a 5'11" guy to find another 5'11" guy. Take it from a 5'11" guy. But you can see it. You can see the top of the helmet. You know he's got longer range. You
Mhm.
know these guys are generally bigger than the defensive backs that are covering them. It gives a quarterback like Young a little bit more confidence that, you know what, if I throw it to where only my guy can get it, like I'm coached to, like the patterns are supposed to be run, like the play calling and the schemes are supposed to be run, I have to have faith in myself. And it's not like Young was this questionable number 1
Mhm.
pick. What he did at Alabama truly spoke for itself. It's somewhere, been a little difficult at times, and I think Carolina, to their credit, at times said, "You know what? This is just too much bet on him right now. Let's give
Mm.
him let's give
What
him
are
2 weeks."
oh, okay. What are the biggest differences you've seen in Bryce Young from last season to now? Because I think a big part of it is they really have added around him, but he just looks like such a different quarterback from last season to now.
I think it's probably one of those ones of, KISS, keep it simple, stupid.
Mhm.
You went through this. You got to Alabama. You were excellent at about Alabama. Yes, there's been ups and downs here, but Peyton Manning has had ups and downs. Every great quarterback had ups and downs. Understand that is part of the path. And at a young age, you're usually going to learn more from a bad day than you're
Mm.
going to learn from a good day.
Yep.
When you're younger, I was guilty of it. Something went well for me. I just assumed everything was going to go well for me
Yeah.
until you get, kicked down the road a piece, get knocked on your can a little bit. That is when you truly learn, or, I can't do that. That was a
Mm.
really stupid throw by me. That was a stupid mistake by me. Either I made an interception, I let one of my guys get lit up because I threw the ball in between an underneath defender and an over, just setting things up, and go back to what was always, the best part of your game. Play with confidence. If you think it's there, you've played enough. You've studied enough. You've watched enough film. If you
Mhm.
believe it's there, believe in yourself that you can get it done. And I think with each step, and certainly the house money aspect, I think that's Carolina where Carolina is. Look, we could sit down a week from now and it could be a totally different vibe. And I really think that's what kind of makes Carolina intriguing
Yeah.
because, each week it's ooh, and then it's all right, maybe not. Oh, and then maybe not. They just keep, but that's it at 7-6.
Mhm.
It is literally 7-6 is a beautiful position because you got teams with maybe a tad bit of a little bit better record, certainly showing some warts, showing some inconsistencies that shouldn't. It's understandable
Mm.
that Carolina is 7-6, and some weeks maybe don't necessarily look like a playoff team, but they'll take that bid if they get it. They're not going to give it back.
It feels like most teams in the NFL right now, we just don't know what they are week to week. In this one, it felt like the Rams had no real game plan to stop the run, and we've seen them shut down the likes of Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley and CMC. But Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard, they were moving in this one. Are people talking about their run game enough?
Well, I mean, this was, a huge thing. Dowdle, while Hubbard was out early in the year, and it got to the point, where he had those 2 magnificent weeks. And what are they going to do when they comes back? Well, obviously, you
Mhm.
play them both. They're both pretty good, and obviously, run the ball more. It's going to make life easier for Young. And you're getting to this point, and you saw in a couple of games yesterday. It's not about what people perceive or believe your identity to be. You got to win.
Mm.
So what do you believe is the ultimate thing? And you see some teams saying, "You know what? If we can run it and run it consistently, I don't need to just because my quarterback is so and so. We don't need to throw it and try to get 350 yards." And the thing is still the one thing that will ever and for always be in football is if you are a defense and you can't stop the run, there is nothing more demoralizing. You're
Yes.
taking hits. The clock is moving at a faster pace.
Mhm.
You don't necessarily have the opportunity to get players off the field and get reserves on the field. And, you get to this point and teams look, it's not about who we are. It's about what we have to do to get the W.
Who do you trust more right now, the Panthers or the Bucks?
I'll still say Tampa. And,
Okay.
this is something I've been guilty of probably throughout part of the season is trying to say, well, it's been more than just a year. And, now we're here. It's every week it's going to get a little stickier. It's getting a little tougher here. Carolina, this is uncharted waters.
Mhm.
Tampa Bay, to be fair, it's not really been that challenged as far as the NFC South the last few years. So it is a little different from that respect where, I mean, they're not peeking over their shoulder. They're staring over
Oh,
their shoulder.
yeah.
There's no choice there. So yes, right now, 5 to go. I think I'm still kind of saying Tampa is probably your top dog there. But, Carolina shows that they absolutely have the potential to certainly make this interesting.